Thank you everyone so much for joining me for another Mentors and Mayhem webinar. As I've said in my previous webinars, it's so important to have mentors in our lives. I don't think that I could have gotten very far without the people that I've had in my life. And today we have one of the best in dentistry, and it's obviously Linda Miles. So I'm going to go ahead and read her short bio for you. If I were to read her long bio, we would be here tomorrow. But anyway, so Linda Miles, CSP, CMC, founder of Linda Miles and Associates, an Inc. 500 company, is a true legend in the field of practice management. Spanning a career of 5 decades in dentistry, with 35 years as a speaker, consultant, and author, Linda's newest projects include co-founder of OCC, Oral Cancer Cause Foundation, a nonprofit to enhance awareness and early detection of oral cancer, and to financially assist the families of oral cancer patients when the breadwinner's ability to work is compromised. In 2011, she was awarded the first ever Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Association of Dental Office Managers. And in 2012, the Academy of Dental Management Consultants bestowed upon Linda an honorary lifetime membership. Wow, that's a mouthful, and then some. Welcome, Linda. Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm happy to be with you, Tina. You're one of my favorite mentees.
Thank you so much. So I have a few questions for you. First off, your journey in dentistry has been over a span of 58 years, and your career as a speaker consultant spans over 40 years. Tell us how you did it. How did it start?
Well, it was sort of an accident. I was a clinical assistant and had been for off and on for 14 years prior to going to work at the front desk of a dental office. And when my newest and my former last employer hired me, he said, "You'll be my only employee for about 6 or 8 weeks, and then we'll hire a second employee. And in 6 months, we'll start our hygienist part-time," because it was a startup practice with 0 patients. And so when he hired me, he said I could keep the job that I preferred over clinical or front desk. And I told him I loved clinical, I loved watching the dental procedures, and I loved alleviating the fear of the apprehensive patient. So we'd be looking for a front desk person. Well, after he assigned me, I had been an endo assistant for 4 years prior. I cone cut every x-ray. I didn't know how to take impressions. And so he looked at me one day and said, "You know, Miles, I think you have the personality to run this practice. Let's put an ad in the paper and find a dental assistant." So he hired me and fired me in the same day, I think. And I did not want to go to the front desk, but after I moved up there, Tina, I loved it. And I realized that there were really no systems. Back in 1976, there were not even any computers. And so I developed some little rinky-dink 3-ring binder systems for collections, for pending appointments, and for inventory control. And my boss bragged about those systems in his practice. But by the way, we were in the wrong part of town, the poor part of town, in Richmond, Virginia, South Side. And all of his buddies were on the rich part of town, and they built these beautiful Taj Mahal offices. And we had a little tiny 750 square foot office in the wrong part of town. And it was my job to help this young dentist succeed. Well, all of a sudden in 15 months, he was doing twice as much, working half as many days, because he taught at the dental school 4 days a month. So long story short, his buddy started bringing me in to help train their administrative team on my systems. And we talked about telephone techniques and scheduling and insurance and collections and marketing. And those were the 5 main things. And then one of those doctors said, "You have so many good ideas and they work. Have you ever thought of doing a seminar and invite lots of people?" My question to him was, "Do you really think I can talk all day?" And he said, "Yes." And so that was the beginning of borrowing $500 from the bank of Chester, Virginia, where I lived, and not knowing how many people would sign up. And we had 36 people at my very first public seminar. And then I started doing one in Charlotte and Raleigh, one in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh on my Friday off. And I do one on Friday, one on Saturday. And then I was doing one in Atlanta, not knowing that Atlanta is not a good market for public seminars because Hinman brings everybody to Atlanta. But I was about ready to cancel that seminar, and a dentist called and said, don't cancel it. I really like your brochure, and I'm going to bring my team, and I'm going to call some of my buddies. And that was the turning point of my speaking career, because I was about to give up. And I think, Tina, that what happens with most businesses, whether it's our business or any business, right before the big break comes, people throw in the towel. And so, as you know, and we all preach, we're all overnight successes in 15 years. So I think that being on the Hinman meeting was really the biggest coup of my career. And that happened in 1983 when I was out there full-time 3 years.
Wow. Wow. That's just amazing. I kind of had the same start. I wanted to be a hygienist. Went to dental assisting schools because they had closed the hygiene school the year I graduated. And I was a clinician for about 5 years and realized I was really bad at it. Same thing with the x-rays. I couldn't make a temporary to save my life. So I went up to the front office and that was it. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And
we have the same career path, Tina.
Yeah.
And you know what I loved most about the front desk? I realized you can talk more up there.
Yes, you can. I don't know about you. Well, I'm going to guess, but I got in a lot of trouble for talking up front. But I was working. I was making the appointment. I was creating financial arrangements, but we were just having a good time doing it. So yeah.
I made dentistry fun, and I think you did too. And I remember one day saying to my doctor, you know, doctor, the assistants and the hygienist, this was like the third or fourth year, they look at me like I don't do anything because Mrs. Smoot brought her wedding pictures of her daughter to show me, and patients were like socializing, and I feel bad because I created the schedule, and now these poor people back in the back, and you have to see the patients. And it sounds like he said, Miles, don't ever be ashamed of socializing. You are one of the reasons why this practice is getting so many referrals. So I think that now I teach in my seminars that 75% of all of our conversation with patients should be dental education, and only 25% should be social chit chat, focus more on the patient. And of course, I broke every rule that I taught.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
But guess what? It brought us a long ways. And as a little girl in grade school, I found my old records when they closed our high school. Someone was able to go in and get the old records and gave me mine. And it said in the second grade, Linda's a nice little girl, but she talks way too much.
Oh, no. Well, thank goodness for that, right? It's just so funny. I think sometimes to myself, you know, earlier on in our careers, I'm 35 plus years in, and we had a great connection with the patient. And I think over the last maybe 15, 20 years, we've lost touch with the patient. And in my company, we're trying to help offices get back to the business of creating relationships, educating, and being able to schedule that report, that appointment. And I had one doctor tell me one time, it only takes you 2 minutes to check out a patient. What are you doing up here? Like, well.
Well, you know, I call that, Tina, back to basics. And the last 6 years of her life, my mother-in-law, who was like a very dear friend the last 6 years of her life because we did everything together. And she said, Linda, I'm going to tell you right up front, these computers are going to be the ruination of this world. And there are days when I think Miss Myrtle may have been onto something, because it takes, you look at teenagers and families, they're at a restaurant, but they don't talk to each other. They
Right.
have their nose in their technology. And I think that we need to have more balance. So I'm glad your company is focusing more on building the relationship, and do keep it 75% patient education and 25% social focus, more on the patient versus us. And I think that's a good rule. But I honestly believe that we need to get back to basics of how we did things in the 80s, before computers really took over a lot of the administrative duties.
Right, right. And going back to the 80s, I know within 5 years, 1983, you moved from your home to a small office and your business took off. What were your top secrets for growth during that initial growth stage?
Well, the first thing we did, and this was real important in the early 80s, we installed a toll-free number. It was amazing.
Oh,
The second thing that I did is that I started writing for a dental magazine. And I've told so many of the speakers and consultants, don't just write an article and submit it, but become a monthly columnist. Come up with something that's the 12 whatevers based on your knowledge base, and then let the editor know that you will do an overview of those 12, but you'd like to break each of the 12 down and have a monthly column. So I had a monthly column for 8 years in an older magazine that was called Dental Practice Management. And so that, I think, was one of the 80s best things that happened. And the third best thing that happened in 1984, hired Lee Tarvin, and Lee Tarvin ran my business for 36 years, for 32 rather, of the 36 years. And she was really my secret weapon, because you can't be a speaker consultant and take care of your clients and run a very busy office as well. So Lee Tarvin did all my travel, all my accounting, all of my meeting planner marketing, getting the things to the meeting planner before deadline. I think one of the reasons, Tina, that I was invited back so many times, number one, there weren't as many of us back in the 80s and 90s. And number two, my meeting planners loved working with Lee Tarvin because she never missed anything. And we ran my little office. It was, again, 750 square feet of space. We outgrew it in 18 months, but I had signed a 5-year lease. So we made it work with shifts of secretaries. And every Monday morning when I came in, I had my folders from the previous week. I handed my folders to Lee. She handed me my fresh new folders with everything I needed day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I never had to check to make sure everything was in there. It was in there. So
yeah.
we just did a folder exchange and ran the business, and she didn't want my job and I didn't want her job. So
Oh, boy.
those were my 3 biggest secret weapons. And then in 88, we moved into a much larger space.
Right. So yes, it was, I think, 3,500 square foot office with 10 coworkers and 6 other independent consultants. During your peak years, 1987 to 1999, can you tell us about your redirection in 1999 and how you reinvented the business to work smarter?
Wow, thank you so much, Tina, because my advice to younger consultants is keep it lean and clean. When you're bringing in over 6 figures a month, you really do waste a lot of money. And I didn't have a mentor, so I didn't know that you shouldn't have a marble and glass $65,000 a year rental fee, which was a waste. So my idea is keep it lean and clean. Yes, you can grow, you can have a small office, but you don't have to have 10 people on the payroll. And that meant I had to be on the road 15 to 18 days a month just to feed all of the expenses that I created.
Wow.
So you don't need a marble and glass and brand new, beautiful facility. You don't need to dress up like you're going to a wedding wedding every day like the 10 of us did, because the only people that saw us were the mailman and the UPS guy. We went out to see our audiences and clients. So big mistake was investing in a lot of overhead. And I still had a tremendously successful net profit, but I had to work so hard. In 1999, I had a ruptured disc in my lower back, and I had to have back surgery. And that was really a good turning point in my career to actually do a consult of sort on my own business. And I figured out that I was spending 70% of my income was going back out, and that if I could right size, I don't believe in calling it downsizing, I right sized my company. Lee and I started working out of our homes, which were 5 miles apart. That was smart. And then we could wear t-shirts and blue jeans to work. And we also outsourced. And I think that was definitely the turning point. I found out that I was working 14 days to pay the overhead and 5 days for my family.
Wow.
So I started working 5 days, and I did increase my fees at that time. I had a consultant tell me from the National Speakers Association years ago. He said, Linda, don't turn away business. Just keep increasing your fees until nobody can afford you. And so I don't know if that's good advice, but I did have other consultants who were less fee than my consulting one-year program, but they were absolutely dynamite. So I increased mine to be $10,000 a year more. And I never had a problem staying busy, but I controlled the growth. And basically the income did not go down, my personal income nor theirs.
Wow, that's fantastic. I know it's never a good time to start a consulting business or a training business, coaching, whatever we want to call it, outsourcing. And I think in my early days, which really wasn't that long ago, but just heeding your advice and lean and clean and not having an overabundance of things that we don't need or don't want, or I'm just really thankful that I've had you along with my ride and just been able to reach out to you and to some other seasoned consultants in just finding the right ways to do things. Yes, I definitely have made my mistakes and will continue.
Well, we learn by those mistakes, don't we, Tina?
Yes, we do. Some of them are pretty painful. Others are pretty hysterical. And we won't share those. But
I think one day we should have another a panel of us, and you should ask us what were our 3 biggest bloopers and how did we get out of it. I mean, that would be a good thing.
I like that. Okay, go ahead. Start. Give me one.
Okay. For instance, when I started the practice administration workshop, I made these beautiful fancy brochures, and I decided that I was going to have a 3-day workshop in very nice places, and I was going to have the doctor come with their practice administrator, office manager, simply because most dentists really don't know how to train this very important part of their team. So then my husband looked at the brochure and he said, tell me, if I were if I were a dentist and I was would you want me to take one of our employees away for 3 days? How would that look, insurance wise, with all that's going on in the world? And I said, oh my goodness, that is not a good marketing tool. So I tore up the brochures and I made a new brochure and I focused it on doctor, do not come to this 3-day workshop without your spouse or significant other, because your spouse is co-owner of this business. And if you die tomorrow, they need to know the ins and outs, and they need to know how to hire and train the next practice administrator. So we sold 3 tickets instead of 1 or 2.
Good. Very, very good. I mean, that just, so do you miss, or did early on in your speaking career, did you miss being in the dental office? I
I
agree.
didn't, I didn't really miss being an employee per se, because when you're in a client office, you're very much a part of their team. And
Mhm.
I probably personally consulted more than 700 or 800 practices in 36 years, along with a very busy speaking schedule of 4 days a month. So it was a very busy time, and I never really, as much as I love teaching how to be more effective and how to have a better bottom line to practices, I definitely never really wanted to ever go back to the front desk, even though I love teaching how we did things and how they could always be better. And I think I loved the communication part, and I love the scheduling. I firmly believe that many people have no idea how to engineer their day or their week, and they end up hating dentistry because they're so stressed out.
Right. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Let's go deeper into customer service, into navigating our day in the office. What does that look like?
Well, the first thing that we need to do is always, when we're talking to a patient, a new patient, is who may we thank for referring you to our practice. We need to document that. So many dentists are just blowing a lot of marketing dollars, and they're not asking that simple question: who may we thank for referring you to our practice? And if they say, I was just driving by every day to work and I saw your sign, they don't have a personal referral. So it was our job to say, Mr. Jones, just selecting a dentist or any medical person randomly is often, did I make the right call? And let me assure you, I've worked with Dr. Wilson for the last 3 years. You've made a very wise decision to come to his practice. So it's our job to market, market, market the time. And so many people think of the telephone as a necessary aggravation. I looked at it as an opportunity. Every time that telephone rang, it was an opportunity to help a patient and an opportunity to build the practice.
Right, definitely. So, I mean, the same rules still apply. I think, we have to be kind, we have to be welcoming. It's sad for me to see when we walk into medical offices how folks are treated.
I
I was in an office with my mom later on last year, and the lady didn't even look up when we walked in, and
know.
she was
Just have a seat,
pointing.
please.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, we didn't even get that. She was pointing to the sign-in sheet, and yeah, and she was filing some papers, and she was, it looked very intense and very busy, and it's like,
And the
gosh.
message that you and your mom had, we are interrupting her busy day.
Exactly, exactly. And a different office I was calling to make an appointment for myself, and she asked, of course, the first question was, what insurance do you have?
You have insurance, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
a turn off question, isn't it?
oh,
That
it's
is a
awful.
question. We need to ask the question softly after we gather more information. Is there a dental benefit plan we need to be aware of? Is
Right.
much better than the first question out of the mouth. Do you have dental insurance? So
Yeah,
they
I
can
mean,
tell us no, they don't treat us.
and that's exactly what happened. We weren't a part of their group, and I said, well, can you check on that? Can you call them? No, I don't do that. Like, what do you do? Yeah.
No, you should have said, wow, I can do this consult in about 10 minutes.
I
First
know.
thing we need to do is help you learn some of your communication skills. Getting
Right.
back to the word customer service,
Yes.
I really don't think there's such a customer service shortage as there is a leadership shortage.
Mm.
When I have great service, whether it's in a hotel like the ADOM conference or wherever, I always ask in a restaurant if I had exceptionally good service, may I see the manager, please? And they always get real nervous because the only time people ask for the manager is when they have a problem.
Right.
So my philosophy is that the frontline workers in banks, airlines, hotels, dental practices, they treat the consumer exactly the way upper and middle management treats them. So
Ah,
we could fix the leadership issue in our world. We could fix the customer service issue. My last boss was a great leader, but before that we even talked about leadership being a topic. He developed his 4 team members into being people they never dreamed they would ever be, simply because he said, I need your help. Those 4 words to the team. I was in dentistry 14 years and no dentist ever said, I need your help. It was like, I have the answers. Here they are. Go do them. So leadership is really a big part of customer service, in my opinion.
I agree with you. How do you think dentistry has changed from when you started so many years ago to today?
Wow, the clinical part totally impresses me. These dental assistants today are dynamite. They're not only great clinicians, they're great communicators. They are the second set of eyes and hands for the dentist, and they do so many more things than we called ourselves dental assistants years ago. My very first job in a dental practice, I was a 1-girl office. That's what they called it back then. And I sterilized the instruments and I set up the 2 treatment rooms, and the doctor did stand-up dentistry and did not use an assistant, and I also was the receptionist.
Wow, wow. Yeah, I mean, the same thing when I was a young girl going to the dental office, stand-up dentistry. Actually, the dentist I went to tried to talk me out of going into dentistry.
Of course.
Don't
So
do it.
many more dentists, their children do not follow in their footsteps simply because they've heard dad or mom come home and whine about the horrible day, the horrible patient, the horrible mess their practice is in, or another team member's leaving, and their children are running in every direction. But I had a neighbor in Virginia Beach, and Jim was the dentist. He was one of my clients, and his wife ran the office for 26 years. And all 3 of their children are dentists today.
Oh, wow. That's
They
fantastic.
he loved dentistry. His wife loved dentistry. She picked the kids up after school. They did their homework upstairs in dad's office, and they're all 3 dentists, and I'm so proud of them, and I'm so proud of that family. So you just don't see that many children wanting to go into dentistry, and I think dentistry gets better every decade, Tina. The clinical part, the business part, it's just amazing. You know, when you and I started especially when I started consulting, I thought I was an expert in HR and marketing and compliance and all of that. And now we have about 12 specialties in consulting. Dental hygiene is a specialty. HR is a specialty. Marketing is a specialty. Compliance is a specialty. So everything now that we used to teach, we had to find our niche, whether it be communication, organization, motivation, and customer service. We really have to refer out more of the other specialties because they're just phenomenal now what those people can do for a practice.
I totally agree with that. I mean, when I first started this, my first thought process was, how did you do that back then? I mean, I go in and we have our certain little area that we work in, and I don't know it all. My team doesn't know it all. And we understand that. We stay in our lane and we do what we do best. We add a few things here and there, but that's provided I have an expert on my team to do that. Exactly. With whether we're training assistants or the admin team or hygiene, we have to have those experts on our team just because, like you said, there's just so much more to it now. It's, I think, a lot more fun and a lot more challenging, but we can't know everything. And I'm so appreciative of the consultants and trainers out there that have those specialties.
And you know what else has changed a lot, Tina? The dental companies. I'm
Mm.
so impressed with the companies and the services that they provide their clients for free. Like Care Credit has some of the most amazing training. And yet, how many people have Care Credit and never mention it to their patients? The first thing I always ask, because money is a barrier to a lot of patients who can't afford or think they can't afford ideal dentistry. And I ask every single practice or audience, are you enthusiastic about patient financing? Well, no, our doctor doesn't want us to mention that we have it unless they say no to the treatment. Well, once they say no, Tina, that's done.
Right.
And so I have always preached, the more enthusiastic the person at the financial insurance person is about, please let your husband know we offer patient financing, which makes this type of dentistry affordable to every family in our community. And it's like, wow, I didn't know that. And so if you turn them off, it's hard to turn them back on.
Right. Again, I agree with that 100%. I was probably in my late 20s, went to work for a prosthodontist, very well known in the community. And I wanted a challenge, and I got it. I was a treatment coordinator, and I had no idea what volume he did. And this was, 25 years ago or so. And I'm young, I have 2 small children, I'm single, I'm just trying to make ends meet. And he says, we're presenting this case in 3 days, and the total was close to $80,000. $80,000 to me, you could have just, at that point in time in my life, you might as well have just said a bazillion. I mean, it just.
I know, and it's very difficult for team members to be handed a treatment plan of that value,
Right.
which is a total reconstruction and worth every penny. I mean, people don't think anything of paying $80,000 for a BMW,
Right.
and that's going to last 5 years, and then it's going to start having problems possibly, where you use your teeth every single minute of every single day to chew your food and eat and your self-image, and yet they balk at doing something that could be life-changing and you know, the mouth is the gateway to the total health of the body. So now I think it's easier to sell those larger cases, but I can't imagine what position you were in. Like me, when I was at the front desk, I would hang my head and present the fee and would rather take it out of my wallet than ask for the money. I was so bad at it, because you can't go from being Nancy the nurse one year to being Betty the banker the following year.
Right.
So I had to, and I told this years ago at my seminars, and everybody must be hearing, write letters of gratitude to people that did something for you. And it could have been 30 years ago. And I got a message from a young woman. I saw you in 1985 at the Hinman, and you said something that changed my career path. And I said, please tell me what I said. She said, I was like you. I couldn't ask for the money. I couldn't get paid. My doctor's AR was going high. And she said, you told me that you put a sign on your forehead and you made it backwards. So when you look in the mirror every morning to get ready for work, you could see the sign and memorize it. And it said, my paycheck next Friday is in that wallet. It's my job to get it out. So when I started thinking about it as my money, not the dentist money, I could ask for it.
Right.
So said that really helped her become a better financial coordinator. So whatever works, Tina.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have to separate that, because as a young single mom, I literally had to go home and practice in the mirror how to say $80,000 without cringing my face or thinking myself it was too much, or, I had to present as it was $8, just to get through that. And the dentist was so kind, and he had actually already sold the case. He just wanted me to go through those motions and be confident in myself. And I so appreciated that. And moving forward, into this day, I would much rather ask you for $80,000 than have to be an assistant, because that is such a hard job. I give kudos to those ladies and gentlemen that actually are out in the trenches every day with the patients, running around like their heads with a chicken cut off. You know, it's just amazing to me. So no, I
such respect for the clinical team.
yes.
And the practices that work really smoothly are those that have a really good respect and appreciation for what the other person does. And I know this was a topic at ADOM last weekend about bridging the gap between the front and back. It's a perfect title. And Kay Huff and her friend Donna Schultz presented that, and I loved every minute of it, because one was a hygienist and one was admin, and it was like, wow, they certainly bridged the gap, because I always told my audiences that if there's fitting and fighting between the front and back, which usually there is in each office, if the doctor could live through a week of them changing jobs. Now for hygiene, you have to have a license, so we have to take their word for how hard they work. But the assistants and front desk have to change jobs for one solid week. Then we'll start appreciating the other person.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of respect for all of the assistants that I worked for. I know I did it myself for a brief period of time, and it's hard work.
You wouldn't want to go back to it.
No. So as a veteran, is there anything you would have done differently that new consultants might benefit by?
Oh, I love that question. And yes, as I'm doing some telecoaching with some of the newer SCN members or potential SCN members, and my goal, of course, is to tell them that if you really want to enhance your career, you must belong to SCN and ADMC, because it's the turning point. I mean, you can get there without both groups, but being part of those groups is absolutely the stepping stone to getting there faster. And so as I'm coaching them, I'm saying to them, don't do what I did. For 36 years, I was zigzagging across the country. Some days I was in Alaska and Hawaii the same week, and it was really, really hard on your body. I spent a third of my life in an airplane, a third in an airport, and a third in a convention center or hotel. And so I wouldn't do that if I could construct it or engineer my life a little better. I would not have done it the way I did it. And now I'm telling them, you know, try to get into a study club in 4 cities that you would love to develop a pocket of business in. And get into the study club, even if you have to speak for free and go for expenses only. And then have a sign up that I only work with 20 practices a year. That is my maximum to provide the best quality of care to you. And I'll be back in this city 4 times a year to do half-day workshops on your 4 major areas that need to be improved. And so you go back and spend, you know, a half a day in 5 offices, and you work in 4 cities. Wouldn't it be nice to fly in on a Monday morning, work in the first practice Monday afternoon, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. Wednesday at 6 p.m., you're free to enjoy the city Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow, yes.
And you're working 16 weeks a year instead of 50.
Yes.
So that's
so we have a few more minutes left before we're going to open it up to questions. And so for those of you who are on the call, there's a question and answer button down at the bottom of your screen. Get prepared with your questions. And I'm going to ask Linda the last question. So we all refer to you as the godmother of consulting. What's on the horizon for the godmother?
Wow. Besides my trip to Australia, believe it or not, Tina, I'm at 14 dental meetings this year. So
Oh,
next year, I'm going to slow that down. I'm going to accept no more than 6 dental meetings. I'm either there to present an award, as I was for Heather Calicchio at the ADOM meeting, which was such an honor for me. And I am often there for OCC, and we now have other volunteers who wish to go in our place, mine and Robin's place, when we're not able to go to all of the meetings and we're so blessed with getting more and more larger meeting complimentary booths for OCC, which we're very grateful for, but we just can't be at each and every one of those meetings. And so I'm going to try to have a little bit more controlled growth of traveling next year. I love it. I love being able to see all of our friends and colleagues, but I also realized that I brought boxes of books for my retirement condo, and I haven't opened one of them yet. I've had 57 days of company the first 6 months, and so I'm going to slow the bed and breakfast down as well. I'm getting real looking at a bed and cleaning the bathroom in the guest suite. So anyway, I plan to, right now, 1/3 of my life is volunteer work for OCC. 1/3 of my life is dabbling in dentistry, doing a little telecoaching with some of the old clients or new clients or whatever. I don't go into private practices anymore. And I'm working on a project right now with Nancy Crossan that I'm very, very excited about, called the DIY Dental Consulting. And it is basically a complete consulting program on the computer. And as one of my experts, Dr. Deanne Blazik, who was my client for years, she said, she took a look at it and she said, listen, even though Linda Miles was my coach for years, I would want DIY in my practice because every question I have, every training session I need for every team member is there, and Linda Miles is who knows where. So having everything you need right at your computer, and all of the forms are downloadable. So it's do it yourself on your time with your team and your way for dentists who can't, for whatever reason. But Nancy and I both agree that definitely in-office coaching and consulting is the best option, but it isn't for every single person right away. And
right.
I think that once they see how complete the DIY dental consulting is, they will definitely hire their coach that directed them to order it or sign up for it. And it's less than $2,000. So when
Wow.
you get the entire, I looked at it, I've been helping Nancy for a year, and I said, Nancy, this is a $30,000 project. She's been working on it for years, and it's finally just, I'm really proud of that. So I'm dabbling in dentistry, and I'm taking 4 cruises this year and 2 land trips. So, I think I finally found a good balance of retirement.
Right. That's amazing. I so want to be you when I grow up. I'm having trouble doing that though.
You're having trouble growing up.
Yes.
Right? Oh, man.
Oh gosh. So we do have a question from one of our viewers. This is, what is your best advice to unite a team?
My best advice to unite the team is to, number one, outline every single person's duties. And who outlines the duties better than the person that takes care of those duties? So have each team member write down their daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual duties, because unless everything is clearly defined of what is expected in every position, people will disappoint 2 people, their leader and themselves. So you can't really praise a person for doing a good job when they don't have a clue what their job is. So defining their duties is number one, then letting them know that their voice will be heard. Our doctor and office manager can't take everybody's suggestions and ideas, but letting them know they have a voice. I also believe at monthly team meetings, health of the practice meetings, each department in a large group or each person in a small practice, individual practice, Every person needs to give a 3-minute personal progress report on 3 areas of their job that they've done last month. How does it compare with the numbers the same month a year ago? We want to know that they're improving or progressing rather than regressing in their position. And then finally, if you're the office manager or the dentist and you don't take a personal interest in each and every employee, they're not going to be motivated to continue with their accountability. An example of that is if my doctor said, Linda, you're in charge of clearing up the past dues. And if I worked my heart out and really was proud of my results, but nobody took 10 minutes a month to sit down with me and say, tell me about your biggest challenge phone call for past due accounts, and tell me about your greatest achievement for collecting those past dues. If they didn't have an interest in my results, guess what? I'm going to burn out and stop having an interest in it myself. So accountability is something that is not sustained unless there is a total involvement of whoever gave me the job.
Okay. Okay. Also, another question, what do you think about bonuses in the office? Do you
I love bonuses. Was that the end of the question? I'm sorry, Tina.
Yes, it was.
Excited.
Yes.
I had the 4 R's of motivation, and the 4 R's of motivation, number 1 is responsibility. The more responsibility my doctor gave me, the more I knew he trusted me. So that's the first R of motivation. The second one is recognition. Recognition is a pat on the back for a job well done instead of a kick in the rear for a mistake. I always told my audiences a pat on the back is only 3 vertebrae above a kick in the rear, but you get a lot more mileage out of it. So there's just not enough recognition. My third is the reward, and that is if I went into a practice, or you go in, Tina, and you tell the team we need to do this and we need to do that and we need to report on this and be accountable for that. Oh, and by the way, there's nothing in it for you. How excited would they be to see the consultant? So I didn't want the bonuses to be on current income or revenue. I don't want the revenue to, I want the sharing of the rewards to be given on what we do from this point on. And if they knew that there was a reward for their extra effort, there will always be a lot of extra effort. But the bonus plan has to be a team incentive. Too many consultants have have a bonus for this person and a bonus for that person, and it pits people against one another. I firmly believe that your salary and your personal compensation is your personal worth to the doctor's practice. But when it comes to incentives, if it's not the same for everyone who works the same number of hours, then it's going to create more dissension than reward. And my fourth is respect. Respect is something that you're never going to receive until you give it out. So
Right.
Responsibility, recognition, rewards, and respect, the 4 R's of motivation.
That's fantastic. What are your suggestions for team motivation and achieving practice and team goals?
I think, again, you have to hire them, then you train them, then you trust them, and then you praise them. And this is how to get the team excited. I had a call the other day with an office manager who's not sure that a new employee of 3 months has the skills level and has the right whatever to continue, investing in her. And I said, if you have a time where you point out all my mistakes, they're going to multiply like chicken pox. But if your doctor or you see her doing 1 or 2 things really well today, praise her for those 2 things and watch the mistakes go away and watch them become excited about doing a better job. We become what our employer focuses on the most.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. And then I think we have time for one more question. what is the best way to approach an office manager that feels that they can't apply suggested changes to the practice?
Wow, that's a toughie, but it happens real often.
Yeah.
Again, if the doctor and the office manager are the controlling factors and no one else has a voice, or no one else, has been invited. My last doctor had 4 magical words: I need your help. So when we had something that needed to be improved upon, he'd say, ladies, I know that you all can come up with better suggestions than I can ever come up with. I need your help. And he had us write down our suggestions and put them on his desk. Didn't mean he was going to change what we said, but it let us know that we need. So that's really the basis for my consulting, is he wanted us to personally get to the root of the problem we were having by coming up with a solution. And I firmly believe that that's what brings out the very best in team members. And evidently the office manager, and another problem with office managers, I love them. I think that they absolutely can take such a load off the doctor. I look at them as their Lee Tarvin, which is the highest compliment ever. But sadly, so many office managers are hired, they're given the position, the title, zero authority. And some people do not wear rank real well. And good leaders do wear rank very well and ask for a voice from all people on the team. But one of the biggest mistakes dentists make is they tell the office manager, you're now the office manager, you take care of that. And sadly, he or she, the dentist, has never said to the team, I have just hired Patty. Patty is going to be the liaison between the team and the doctor from this point on. Thanks to all of you, we've built a successful practice that we now need an office administrator. And I want you to take any issues you have to her. If the 2 of you can't sort it out, we'll all 3 sit down and talk about it. I'm still available as your employer, but she is going to be, and so many dentists don't tell the team. And so the team get together at lunch without the office manager say, who died and put her in charge?
Right. So anyway, I think we are just about out of time. Did you want to say any final words of wisdom for us?
Well, I just am so happy that you invited me, Tina. I've watched your company grow. I've watched you do some things really right in the last year, that you're not just running here, there, and everywhere. I love the fact that more and more of our work is going to be digital work instead of running around the country. And I think you have so much to offer, as do all of the people I know in SCN, ADMC, and all the other groups. ADOM was a wonderful experience last weekend, and it really gave me, pardon me, the motivation and the excitement to go wow the audiences in Australia next week.
Yay! And I just want to thank you personally for being here today, being by my side in this crazy world of dentistry. And again, I wanted also to mention your book, Miles to the Top. Thank you for my signed copy, because I've given all my others away. I'm not giving this one away.
That's good.
And I appreciate you so much. Just like so many of us, we are so grateful to have you here and be able to help us and teach us and guide us all along the way. So thank you so much, Linda. I look forward to seeing you out there somewhere.
I hope you'll be in San Francisco. I'll be at ADMC.
I'm trying to get there.
Well, I'll look for you.
Okay, Linda. Thank you. Have an awesome day.